everybody, welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. As always, thank you so much for supporting the show. There are so many other fantastic content creators out there and people who cover this football team. So anytime you decide to get your Niners news and analysis right here, it's an honor to be your host. Coming up here on the show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well for daily and year-round coverage of the Niners. Some insane Niners injury news and trends. And really, we're going to try to solve a mystery that has been pertinent with this football team. Why do the 49ers continue to suffer a historic rash of injuries? Let's waste no time. So since Kyle Shanahan was hired by the Niners in 2017, I loved the hire at the time with what he did as an offensive mind and all of his previous stops. Obviously, has the NFL head coaching bloodlines with his pops, Mike. He's done some great things for the Niners. Offensively, he's one of the top offensive minds in football, but there has been a constant problem with him as the head coach, injury issues. And among the most injured teams since 2017, according to True Media, Matt Barrows of The Athletic did a really good article on all of this. The Niners have been, since 2017, Kyle Shanahan's first year, the second most injured team in the National Football League, behind the New York Giants. Now, how this is calculated here. True Media tallied all games that players have missed while on injured reserve since 2017. The New York Giants, playing on probably the worst turf surface in the NFL. Raheem Mostert, Nick Bosa, Micah Williams, they've all suffered torn ACLs there. They have had 1,638 games missed for players on IR. The 49ers, number 2, not far behind them, at 1,600. So those are the two teams in the NFL who have had the most games missed on injured reserve. Look at the difference between the two last teams and the Buffalo Bills, who have had the fewest amount of games missed on injured reserve. 777. It's more than half. Wild. So this year alone, the 49ers have the third most games missed to IR with 132. And some of you might be saying, wow, Chase, I thought they were the most injured team in football. This doesn't count the players who never went on injured reserve. Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, players like that. And so still this year, the Niners have been one of the most injured teams in football. And year over year, this has been a continuous problem. You look at this chart as well from True Media, NFL teams with the fewest and most games missed on injured reserve this year. The Rams, 18 games missed for players on injured reserve. Sure, it would be nice to be them, right? The San Francisco 49ers, 132, ahead of the Lions and the Dolphins, tied at 148. What is also crazy here, Week 1 starters for the Niners, meaning players who started in Week 1 on the road against Seattle, have only played in 59% of the Niners snaps this season. There are 5 players who have started every game for the Niners here during the 2025 campaign. Trent Williams at left tackle, Dominick Puni at right guard, Colton McKivitz at right tackle, somehow Christian McCaffrey, and Kyle Juszczyk. On defense, these players have started every game. Kalia Davis at defensive tackle, Jordan Elliott at defensive tackle, Deommodore Lenoir at corner, and D. Winters at the linebacker spot. And I mentioned this being a year-over-year issue under Kyle Shanahan. You look at their games missed ranked by year. 2017, dead last. 2018, stayed pretty healthy. 2019, 23rd. 2020, dead last. 2021, 21st. 2022, 15th. 2023, 7th. 2024, 29th. 2025, so far 30th. And we'll see what the outcome is here. Now, it hasn't kept the Niners from being able to win games. And there are a couple of different ways to track this. Today, it's the True Media number, games missed on IR. But we've shown you some of the Warren Sharp numbers where, as far as overall injuries, The Niners have been top 10 in injury rate every year since 2017, except for 2023 when they made it to the Super Bowl. And so you just imagine, this is why it's so frustrating for so many fans out there. What could happen? And what would this Niners team be able to accomplish if they could stay healthy for a season? So let me pop up today's poll question. Are the Niners cursed? I want you to type yes or no. And we're going to dig down deep to try to find out why the Niners have had all of these injuries coming up here in just a moment. Let's get to our sponsor. Today's 49ers Report, brought to you by Prize Picks. We really appreciate them for making today's show possible. This is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Join the millions of users. Sign up today. The hard-hitting football action, even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing with fall in full swing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app. Copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just somebody whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. What's also cool is that Prize Picks offers injury reboots. That's important for the Niners, especially with the theme of today's show. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and does not return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. 3-pick power play for Sunday's game against Arizona. Christian McCaffrey more on the receiving yards. George Kittle more on the half rushing or receiving touchdown. And Trey McBride more than 67.5 receiving yards. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS. To get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So the mystery here for the Niners, why does San Francisco suffer from so many injuries? Obviously, sometimes it just comes down to bad luck. In the case of Fred Warner, getting rolled up on by his own teammate, friendly fire, breaks his ankle, dislocates it, he's out for the year. But I do think there are other reasons that are reasons for why the Niners are hurt so much. And this offseason, they have to exhaust every avenue to try to stay healthy as a football team. And there are things that could make this avoidable. Can you make any changes to the strength and conditioning staff? It's pretty much been the same staff since Kyle Shanahan came to the Niners in 2017. Dustin Little has been Kyle's right-hand man. So obviously that is a problem. The Niners stretching practices and their stretching routine is a lot different than some other teams. You also have to factor in Kyle Shanahan's play style. He wants his teams to be physical. He wants his teams to play downhill. He wants to insert his physical will on the opponent. And when the postseason comes around, that plays. Late season games, that plays. The Niners are a team, unlike the Miami Dolphins, where they can only play in good weather, that can play and succeed and win in any weather. And I love that about the Niners. There's also this, and Matt Barrows made this point, which I thought was a really good one. The Niners at Levi's Stadium have one of the best grass surfaces in the NFL. The Niners practice on a really nice grass surface. And obviously that has more give than a turf surface. But when the Niners go from the beautiful, luscious grass to having to play on turf, sometimes the human body isn't used to that. But there's an issue, too, with practicing on turf. The Niners did this many years ago prior to playing Cincinnati on a turf surface. So they practiced on turf, and then Dee Ford had tendonitis. There's also this, which we'll expand on. The Niners have these very physical Thursday practices. Is that causing some of these injuries? Because it's not a big recovery time until Sunday, and when you do this consistently throughout the year, you're not giving your body a long time to heal up. And an additional theory, which John Feliciano and other players have talked about, which I discussed on my X page, and people tried to cancel me for bringing up something that the Niners players have discussed and talked about, is the location of the practice field. It is literally right next to an electrical substation. If you're a believer that EMF can lead to a lot of health problems, and I had a lot of experts in the field reach out to me and say there could be something there, it can lead to tissue breakdown. It can impact your thyroid, which can control a lot of your system. It can impact other things. It can lead to potentially cancer, which is being shown in some of these early studies. But the human body doesn't really know how to react to some of these societal and technological changes. And so some of the data behind that, it's not been around for that long of a time. Anyway, Chris Conley said something notable recently about the Niners as a football team and the style in which they play with. He said, it's not about preserving your body. It's about attacking. Remember in 2023 when teams would play the Niners, the following week, like all year, that next week they would always lose because they got beat up, manhandled, and out-physicaled by San Francisco. And the Niners took a lot of pride in that. But when you play that type of style, it can lead to some injuries. Remember Javon Hargrave compared the Eagles and Niners practices? He signed with the Niners after being with the Eagles. He said Niners practices are like the Miami Heat. He compared Kyle Shanahan to Pat Riley. Pat Riley, an old school guy. The Miami Heat, very physical basketball team. He compared the Eagles practices to the Golden State Warriors, a lot more laid back. And the Eagles under Nick Sirianni, as they've changed their medical staff and they've changed their conditioning habits and their practice schedules, they've been one of the healthier teams in football over the last few years. Going back to the Thursday padded practices, in these padded practices this season, 7 players have been injured. Now, Kyle Shanahan in recent weeks has scaled back some of these Thursday practices, and he's had to do that because of all of the injuries. Well, what has happened the last couple of games? The Niners have come out of the Rams game with no new injuries to report. Unfortunately, against the Giants, it was Trent Williams. Outside of that, not many other injuries to report. And so Matt Barrows talked about these Thursday practices in his Athletic article, saying the players, meanwhile, speak about the intensity of the Thursday practice, not as a burden, but as an advantage. For example, several players said a fiery Thursday practice last month was the precursor for their energetic performance against the Falcons. That is, the Thursday practice set the tone for Sunday's game. Thursday practices around the league generally are the padded practices, said Clelin Ferrell, who's played games for 3 other franchises and is in his second stint with the Niners. Now, how fast and physical they are, that depends on the people in the pads. The culture here is that we put a strong emphasis on Thursdays. And obviously that goes without saying. We know that the Niners play a very physical brand of football. And so there's no one answer to why the Niners have had this historic run of injuries for nearly a decade straight. I think there are a lot of factors, and obviously bad luck is involved as well. But this offseason, I think the Niners have to pull out all the stops and try to get down deep to the core level of why this keeps happening to try to figure out these issues. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I have you covered with daily and year-round coverage of San Francisco, and we appreciate your support as always.